Hi, this is Pete Gear with the Boca Voice, and I'm here with Frank Barbieri, who is one of the board members of Palm Beach County School District. Frank, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So as we're here today, Frank, talking about the school district, first off, I got to tell you, with having two kids in the Palm Beach County School District, my son being in Boca High, which is one of the best high schools, not only in the state, but not in the country. I'm pleased with the school district and all it's done. Tell me how you got involved and why Palm Beach County has such a great record.
Well, I mean, Peter, I don't know how much time you have today. I could spend hours telling you about how I feel about the Palm Beach County School District. I mean, we are one of the finest school districts in the United States. Recently, in fact, we have a new superintendent, Dr. Robert Avosa. He's not so new anymore. It's a couple years he's been with us, but we were very fortunate to get him. And the board had set a goal of a 90% graduation rate by the year 2022. I think it was 2022. It was a couple years out from now. And he advised the board recently that when all the grades came in and everything was tallied, that our district has hit 90% graduation rate. It's the only large urban district in the state of Florida that's got a 90% graduation rate. So I'm so proud of that.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we have such great teachers and administrators in our schools. It's great. How I got involved is my wife was with the district for almost 30 years. She retired a few years ago, and you know, she was a confidential secretary. Confidential secretaries are the secretary that works for the principal in each school. There's one in each school, and she was a confidential for I think 21 years, the last 21 years of her tenure with the school district. And she wasn't so confidential because she would come home and tell me this crazy stuff that was going on. And I said, somebody should fix that. Somebody should fix that. And then I decided the only person that's going to fix it is the school board, and I got to get on the school board. So I ran for the school board in 2008. I was reelected in 2012 without opposition. I was reelected again in 2016 without opposition. So I'm very proud of the fact that I serve on this great school board, and we do so much to help our kids.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your service, Frank, because you do a great job for the community and a great job for everything. And you're also a Rotarian, which we can't thank you enough because you do so much for the community. Speaking of which, you also started a great foundation, the foundation that we do in regards to the Teacher of the Year, which is coming up very shortly. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I think teachers, I mean, everybody in the district knows that if it's a teacher issue, Barbieri is going to take it up, because the future of this country is in the teachers, with our teachers. I mean, they have those kids in the classrooms, and my hope is that our teachers will be able to change the future by what they do with these kids, and I know they do. So I mean, so back in 1987, I think I joined the Rotary Club in '86. This was years before I was on the school board, but since my wife was with the school system, I got to meet so many wonderful teachers over the years, and so I had this idea: why don't we do a Teacher of the Year program, and we'll honor a teacher from each one of the schools. And back then we started with four schools, and now we're up to 22. So I think it's our 32nd year this year that'll be honoring teachers, and it's wonderful for the teachers, because again, I don't think there's any profession on the planet that's more important than a teacher, because I'm an attorney, and I had to have teachers to become an attorney. Doctors have to have teachers to be doctors, engineers. So I mean, the teacher is the most important component in the whole education process, because you can't be anything unless you first sit in front of a teacher who teaches.
And by far, there's no better investment. I've said it a million times. There's no better investment in our future than our children of today. And our teacher is our catalyst to our children.
Right. And the education is the only gift we can give our children that nobody can ever take away.
It's true. So back to kind of our community, because you do take a lot of havoc when it comes to our community.
Want to see my flak jacket? I kept it from when I was a cop years ago.
So, because you really are on battle line zero, really, and because everybody wants to talk about, whether it's for political gain or not, the overcrowding, right? Sure. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
You know, is there a reality to it? Because I'm sure there's reality to it, and how much of the reality is based upon the building of condominiums? How much of it is based upon just people moving in here because they love the school district, right? Real estate's all about location, location, location. So if people are truly moving into here because of the great school districts and the location of Boca Raton, and they want to live in a school, they want to live in a town that's literally blooming and we have all these great companies moving here, and they want to move and be close to them, they obviously want to be in a school district that's great for their kids.
Sure.
And we talked a little bit earlier, you even have people that are moving from private schools to public schools, because why pay all of this money for private if you're getting a better education in public, which wasn't the case years ago.
Right, that's true.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, and then I also want to talk about the 2-cent tax and how that impacts all of this.
Okay. Well, I mean, unfortunately, the schools have become a political football in the city. And politics has no place in a school district. I mean, it's what's in the best interest of children, and let's forget about the politics. In reality, that doesn't happen. So, there's a lot of concern whether the overcrowded schools, and we do. Our schools in Boca are all at capacity. I mean, they're some of the best schools in the district and in the state, and of course, people want to put their kids in them, and so they're at capacity or over capacity. So, one of the concerns I had, because I get the questions all the time, is it really the building that's causing the overcapacity in our schools, or is it something else? And in the western area, it's different, because in the western area we have lots of new homes going in, and my district encompasses both East Boca and the West Boca area. In the western area, the schools are overcrowded because we have a lot of new development on 441. There's a lot of builders building up that stretch of the road, and a lot of homes going in. But in the city, it's different, because what we found in the city, when I talked to our demographer Jason Link and our planning director Chris Garrison, is what we found is it's not so much the new buildings that are going on in the city that are bringing our children into our schools. It's the changing demographics that we have in the neighborhoods. We have old folks that are
Careful.
Yeah.
Careful.
Well,
when you talk about old folks.
Yeah. Well, I'm there with you, so my shoulder will remind me of that every morning. We have old folks that are downsizing, and they got 3-4 bedroom homes. They don't need those bigger homes anymore, so they're moving out. And young families that want to get into our schools are moving in with children. So we have changing neighborhoods. My neighborhood is a perfect example. I live out west. My children, all 3 of them, went to Palm Beach County Public Schools. My youngest is now going to be 40 in May. And so for years, I mean, was the same age as a lot of people in the neighborhood. So all of our kids were playing on the streets, and then they went away to college, and then they went away. And for years, it was kind of just us old folks, and the ambulances would come down the street, and we'd start dying off one at a time. And the neighborhood has changed. I mean, now I'm very careful when I back out of the driveway, because I thank God for those backup cameras on all of our vehicles, because there's always a kid on a tricycle or a skateboard or a bicycle or something playing in the street. The whole neighborhood has changed, which is really nice. It kind of helps you with the thought of death when you see all these young people around. It kind of takes your mind off of the fact that you're closer to the end than the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
So what we have found is the condominium buildings, are, according to our demographer, I mean, the number of children that we get out of condo buildings is considerably less than what we would expect out of a development with new homes. So that there is a big difference.
Okay. So as we move on to that, let's talk about the renovations of the current schools. And we also just got proposed a new plan for taking over some land over at the Don Estridge location, right? And that could be a great opportunity for us. And let's talk about that, because that could be a brand new school on some unused land that could really relieve some pressure from some overcrowding.
Sure.
And let's talk about how that came to be, and who brought that forward, and then who actually championed through the city council.
Sure. So as you know, we passed a sales tax in the county last year, and the school district gets half a penny of that 1 cent increase. The district gets half a penny, which is about $2.4 billion over 10 years, and that money can only be used for capital expenditures, for repairing old our schools that are in disrepair. For years, since the recession, we really didn't have the money, and the state legislature cut us back from 1.75 mils to 1.5 mils. And our chief financial officer, Mike Burke, has said that cost us almost $900 million over the last 8 years in lost revenue that we would have had the state legislature not cut us back. So during that period of time, we did not have the money to repair the schools like we should. So now we have lots of schools that need new roofs, new AC systems. There are leaks, there's mold, needs new painting, new parking lots, new lights. So the sales tax money also, what we did is the superintendent had a study done of all of our 180 some schools in the district to see exactly what they need. And we found 7 schools, I believe there's 7, that actually the cost of the repairs it doesn't make sense in comparison to what it would cost to rebuild those schools from scratch. 2 of those 7 schools are in my district. That's Verde Elementary and Addison Meisner. So those 2 schools are slated to be rebuilt with the sales tax money. We also, in the budget, in the 5-year capital plan, we had a new school plan for the south area, 05C. We call it 05C until it's named. When it's built, it's given a regular name. But that school we thought was going to be used in the western area, either West Boca or West Delray, to help with the overcrowding of the schools out that way because of the new homes that are going in. But we don't have any land out there. So with the understanding that we have the need in the city, I spoke to some of the county commissioners, and I had talked to the Parks District, Art Koski, and some of those folks about if they had any land available. And what it turns out that there's land at Don Estridge. Scott Singer and I have been working very closely. Councilman Singer has been a great help in trying to figure out how we fix the overcrowded schools. And he identified this area next to Don Estridge High-Tech Middle School, which could be used for a school. So when I talked to the superintendent, and I have our chief of facilities, Wanda Paul, that's looking at what we need to do with respect to building a school. Everybody believes that it's a great idea to put a brand new school. We need a new elementary school in the city because we can add on, we do have plans to add on to Spanish River High School to add more classrooms there, so we'll take some of the heat off the high schools. And at Omni Middle School, we can put some concretables in and give some additional space there. But Omni is at almost at capacity, Boca Middle's over capacity, but we can do something. But the elementary schools, we have no room to build onto them. So we need a new elementary school, and 05C is now, looks like the superintendent's in favor of bringing it to the school board to get authority from the board to go ahead and build 05C as soon as possible on the land next to Don Estridge. The city, as you know, Councilman Singer brought forth a resolution, got the unanimous approval by the city council to work with us on getting us the land next to Don Estridge to build an elementary school. So it'll be great. The other issue we were going to have is rebuilding Addison Meisner. We typically rebuild a school. When we're rebuilding it, we build a new school on the same land as the old school, and we leave the children in the old school buildings until the new school is done, and then we move them into the new building and tear down the old building. With Addison Meisner, the site is so tight that there's no way really to make it comfortable enough to build a new school building while we keep these kids in the old space.
Right.
So we were going to have to move them somewhere to rebuild Addison Meisner, and so what we were planning on doing is rebuilding Verde Elementary School. There's enough room at Verde to build a new school and keep the old school. So we're going to rebuild Verde and move the kids from Verde Elementary into the new building, and then move all the children from Addison Meisner to the old Verde building, so we'd have 2 schools on one campus for 18 months to 2 years, which was going to be a disaster for the traffic. It's already not too great over there, but it would have been a disaster to have that there, but we had no other choice. Now with the 05C being built, the thought is we'll build 05C next to Don Estridge. We'll make that the holding school so that we don't have to move the Addison Meisner kids to Verde Elementary. We can move them to the new school next to Don Estridge while their school is being rebuilt, wherever it's rebuilt. We haven't given up yet on Sugar Sand Park. It could either be rebuilt where it currently sits or maybe in Sugar Sand Park, if we can work that out.
Now, let's talk about that, because there's, again, a political football, right? So they talk about Sugar Sands Park. They're not talking about actually in the park and taking up park land. They're talking about peripherally to it so that it's not actually using what people would use as Sugar Sand Park, correct?
Well, I mean, it's part of the park. I mean, I guess the park's 190 some acres. It's up there, under 200. I mean, we're looking to take, 15 acres possibly.
Right.
And the 15 acres that we're looking at is in an area of the park that's not used. I mean, it's parkland. It's true, it's parkland, but it's in an area that's not developed. There's no current plans or nothing in the future, in the near future, plans for that area. So we were hoping to take some.
My point being is that there was a lot of controversy around why are they going to use parkland and people already had visions of it going in the middle of the park and taking part of the park that was being used right now as actual park land, and that's just not the case.
Well, no, and the other thing that's kind of that's kind of just kind of irks me a little bit is they're all complaining that the school board has not built any new schools down here, and it's like, so somebody show me 20 acres somewhere in the city that we can build schools on. Thank God we found the land next to Don Estridge, but you can't have a school without a school site, and if the only thing left is the park land that's there, and there's some park land that we can use that whoever owns that, whether it's the Parks District or the city, is willing to give us land to build a school. I mean, don't complain there's no new schools if there's no place to build it.
Right.
So, You know, this is an opportunity for us to build a school that be a quality school for our kids. It would be a K-8, which would take the heat off the middle schools. Verdi's going to be a K-8, so that'll help the kids there too. So I mean, that school could be built to take into account that it's in a park and use the environmental, aspect of the new school to make it something that the kids would be proud to be able to, to have the trees and the open land and learn about the environment. And I'm sure, that it would be designed with all of that in mind now that it's going to be situated, in a park. Plus, we have the use of the common facilities. Typically, when we build a school next to a park, we have an interlocal agreement with whatever governmental entity holds that park, and so that there's dual use. During the day, the kids use it. At night, the community uses it. It'd be perfect for sugar sand. Also, we don't have to take so much land to build the school that we would typically build, because there's facilities already there. And the thought would be that we'd enter into an interlocal agreement with the Parks District to be able to use the fields that are there for the kids.
If the school district approves it, the city's already approved it, and how long would it take to go through that process?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, some of the neighbors have threatened a lawsuit if we try and take that land to build a school. There's a deed restriction on the land that says it can be only used for recreational use. There's some case law that says that we could take the land and probably not be subject to the deed restriction. I think the biggest concern from the neighboring community is the traffic issue. Where this land is located that we're currently looking at, the only entrance would be on Camino Real, which is down the street, not too far away from the entrance to the community that's most affected, or the residents are most vocal about it being affected. And so I think if we're working on trying to find another way to access that area or move to a different section of the park that's not being developed, so that we wouldn't have to impact the Camino Real as much. And hopefully some of that opposition would go away.
Great. Now the city also committed to handling some of the traffic issues, right? Yes. Taking some of the funds and do that. Tell us still a little bit about that.
Well, that's kind of their unofficial commitment. I mean, I think I've talked to all 5 city council people now. I mean, the sales tax money is being split, and we get half a penny. The other half is going to the county and to the cities. And so I've said to the ones I've spoken with, I think I've talked to all 5 of them, maybe 4. I've said to each one of them, you're getting sales tax money too. You all are wanting a new school, or want us to do something about the school. So we're building 2 brand new schools in the city. We're rebuilding 2 schools, Verdi Elementary and Addison Meiser, which increases everybody's property values. It's something the city can boast about. They have 2 brand new schools in the city. We need some of your sales tax money put on the roads. Verdi Trail is a mess. I mean, it's a mess now, and with a larger school that we're going to build there, it's not going to get any better. And of course, if we leave Addison Meiser where it currently sits, the 12th Avenue area over there, I mean, that's a pretty congested area too. So, and they've committed unofficially, and I've got commitments that they'll work with the district on providing some relief on the roads by using some of their money to improve the area.
That's great. So tell me some of the other challenges that you have as a school district and as a board member of trying to make sure that we have, as parents, we have all of the things that we need, and you have all of the things that you have.
Well, we're very fortunate in my district because, it's a wealthier area than some of the other districts, and the parents will step forward and help. I mean, the PTAs in some of my schools, they raise tens of thousands of dollars a year, so when the teachers need something extra, the parents step up. They buy whatever the teachers need, and it works great. In the other areas of the county, some of those board members, my colleagues, are not so fortunate because they're in poor areas where the parents can't really step up. They don't have extra funds. They don't have the extra time to get involved. Both mom and dad work. They might have several jobs. And so one of the challenges is making sure the district's resources, which are somewhat limited by the state legislature and what we have available, we have to make sure that not things are equal, because equal doesn't cut it. They've got to be equitable. So I'm a proponent of, I know that Marsh Andrews, for example, represents the Glades area, and those kids out there, they have a rough time of it. So, I mean, I'm fully, supportive of anything we have to shift resources out to the western area to help those kids get what they need, so that it's equitable, so that those children get the same, the same quality education as children on the coast and down here especially. So it's one of our challenges is making sure that we allocate resources. I mean, we're the 11th largest school district in the United States. We have a $2.4 billion budget. We're the largest employer in Palm Beach County, so we're huge. And the demographics of the district are absolutely as far as diverse as possible. We have some of the poorest children in the country that live here, and we have some of the wealthiest. And it's trying to make sure that with a district that large, that we allocate the resources equitably.
Well, Frank, listen, I thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all you do for the city and all you do for the school district. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate it.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for watching us. We look forward to seeing you next week on Fact or Fiction Friday. Don't forget to follow us online and on Facebook.